Hey guys, the next question for today is about the third part of sixth assessment report. The IPCC, that is Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change, it released the third part of the sixth assessment report. First part, it was released in 2021 on the physics of climate change, and the second part, it was released on March 2022 on the impact, risk and vulnerability of climate change and its adoption options. So this is that sixth assessment report which was released by IPCC, and this is the third part. Now what are the important findings of this particular part? In 2019, global net anthropogenic GHG, that is greenhouse gas emission, were at 59 gigaton of carbon dioxide equivalent, and this is 54% higher than that in 1990s. So there is a 54% anthropogenic GHG emission increase. Then it's accounted after deducting emissions soaked up by the world's forest and ocean. So after deducting these things only, this much of increase is there. Average annual GHG emission during 2010 to 2019 was higher than any previous decade. That is, last decade was the severe GHG emission, but the growth rate was just 1.3% per year in this 2010 to 19 decade, which was lower than 2000 to 2009 decade, because there per year we had 2.1% of growth rate every year. So the growth rate decreased, but the average annual GHG emission increased. Then the least developed countries average per capita emission from 1990 to 2019 were only 1.7 ton compared to the global average of 6.9 ton. So even LDC countries are doing good than the global average. Then globally, net anthropogenic GHG emission increased in all major regions. Since 2010, it's increasing the anthropogenic GHG emission, and this increasing share of emission can be attributed to urban areas. Then there is variation in the regional and national per capita emission, which reflect the different developmental stages, but they vary widely even at the similar income level. So the variation are very wide. Then at least 18 nations reduced their GHG for greater than 10 years. So more than 18 nations they reduced it. And the unit cost of many low emission technology, it declined steadily since 2010. So low emission technology unit cost is also decreasing, and the innovations lags behind in developing countries. So innovation is being affected in the developing nation. Why? Because of the weak enabling condition. They need further research and development fund. Then global GHG projected to peak between the 2020, that is in the next 2 years we are going to see a peak as per the prediction in latest global model path. It is also called as C1 pathway, that limits warming to 1.5 degrees Celsius with no or limited overshoot. Now what are the suggestions? We have to reduce the GHG across energy sector, which requires major changes including substantial reduction in overall fossil fuel use. Then urban areas can create opportunity to increase resource efficiency and decrease GHG by systemic transition of infrastructure. So these are the urban areas. It can create opportunity. resource efficiency, and we must also increase the infrastructure. Now, how can we conclude? Demand side option and low GHG technology. It can reduce transport sector emission in developed countries, and we have to limit the emission growth in developing countries. And the main step needed is investment in decarbonization. It hardly impacts the global GDP, but that is the need of the hour. Thank you.